Each week, you have a chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees during Review of Raw. All you have to do is pay attention for the secret question and then submit your answer at Law Radio on Twitter, and you'll be entered into a draw to win your t-shirt, including our own brand of shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/law.
It's Review of Raw for Monday night. Download a Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Da-da-da-da. It's John Pollock and Wai Ting.
What is that? You've never done that before?
Because I wanted you to laugh at least once tonight.
Oh my god. Nice. It worked.
How are you, Wai?
I'm good.
I notice it's a late Monday night, and you and I both have coffees right now. Is that a good indication of what we just sat through?
Well, I've been trying to cut back on the coffee, and last week, I
never drink coffee on these Monday nights, at least not for a long time.
I had a half chocolate, half coffee that kept me up all night. Ruined my whole Tuesday. I didn't sleep at all.
Maybe you should have one of those before Raw.
I did.
You had it before.
And it kept me up.
I see.
So the fact that I'm drinking this right now after Raw tells you that I really need this in order to get through this episode, I think.
I'm going to state it out clear, okay? If I get any of the positivity police out there, F off, because I'm going to town on this show and what I sat through.
Well,
how it possibly was only 3 hours and 7 minutes, modern miracle.
Well,
I don't know how it was only that length of time.
Well, I definitely encourage opposing viewpoints. So let's encourage the discussion. If there are people that really enjoyed the show or at least thought it was a decent show, please respond in the comments below.
Yeah, if you can argue this was anything but a WWE test pattern, have at it. I would love to hear it from all of you. But if I hear the complaint about negativity, I'm not going to come here and just say, that was good. That was good.
Our jobs would be a lot easier if we just did
Done. Oh, Raw. Yeah, whatever. You know, it was a show. That's it.
Yeah.
What an awesome podcast we would have.
No.
Yeah, it's wrestling. Don't worry about it too much.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you can sense what's bubbling up inside.
I mean, I feel the same way. I really do feel the same way. I mean, it's our job to review it and kind of like. Often, I think people just want us to sit back and enjoy the show, but we can't really. There's no review if we just do that. You know, if I'm being told not to really have to think critically of something that I'm watching, what's the point of doing a review of it?
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
This was twice a year they go over to Europe for their tour, and this was our spring tour of Europe. So this was a slightly tape-delayed show at the O2 Arena in London, England. Did you read any of this ahead of time, or are you watching this with fresh eyes?
Completely fresh.
As did I. I mean, I read some stuff, but the majority I didn't even bother looking at ahead of time. So Dean Ambrose arrives at the building. He was going to have a big night. His phone rang. He's got a ringtone that you would not associate Dean Ambrose to have. He's not really a cell phone guy, I would attach. But last week we learned he is a cell phone guy.
Yeah, he
is the Dan Lavransky of Raw.
I was going to say the same. Dan Lavransky does not have a cell phone, never has, and I associate Dean Ambrose to be that type of guy. Big record collection, will occasionally lose his keys on the way home from an ROH show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he lost his keys?
Lost his keys last night.
Oh, no.
Had to wake his girlfriend up in the window
no.
by knocking on the window to get in the house.
Oh,
so
no.
I that's exactly a Dean Ambrose thing. He'd be knocking on the window.
Renee's
to get
furious.
Renee. Yeah.
Comes home from in Vegas, middle of the night.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a great story.
Uh-huh.
We also learned that when Dean Ambrose answers the phone, he's one of those guys. Yellow. What's your favorite color, Dean? Yellow.
That's what you did at the start of the show, didn't you just do that?
I didn't say yellow.
Oh, what did you say?
I said dun da da da.
Okay.
That's how I'm going to answer the phone from now on. Do you know how much that's going to throw people? That's what I'm seriously going to do for the next stranger that calls me.
Okay, that could be your thing, eh?
That might be it.
I will never call you.
What a great icebreaker on the phone. The bank calls you. They would have no response. And then you just hang up on them.
Okay, you could try that.
Yellow, it's Kurt Angle. And Dean asks Kurt if he got the pictures he sent. Kurt's wife saw them.
What does that mean?
I don't know. There are many. Never mind. He says he's got a great idea for the name of the next pay-per-view, but he never got around to stating this.
Is this a Great Balls of Fire reference?
Well, I thought maybe they were going to pin this on Dean for coming up with this name, but the next pay-per-view, which they establish on this show, is Extreme Rules.
Oh, yeah.
It's hardly a clever name. Ambrose is coming out to the arena with this news that he has heard from Kurt, and the crowd starts chanting Dino at him.
It's a British thing. Dino.
Maybe it'll take off for him.
Yeah.
Dino Ambrose.
Jono. That's what they'd call you.
Tingo.
Yeah.
No, that's a stretch.
That's what they do in England. Just
Well.
add an O.
Kurt Angle is not going to be here tonight because his dog is sick. Lucky Kurt.
I mean, Ambrose was making up a reason why Kurt wasn't here. The legitimate reason was... Tell us.
What was the legitimate reason?
I don't know. I figured you'd know. They couldn't afford a ticket for him?
Maybe they looked at this show and thought, we have no need for Kurt here.
Maybe.
I don't know what the reason was that he wasn't here, but lucky for him, he wasn't on this show. Unlucky for us, Dean and Miz were. And so he says you can't boo a sick dog, but some of the guys still booed this sick dog that Kurt is at home with. And he's going to be the acting general manager tonight. The Miz comes out with Maurice and says that he received a call from Stephanie McMahon, who we know is in England and was on ITV Monday morning.
We know that she's in England, but not in storyline.
No. She's
still injured.
Okay. Yeah, she's still injured.
assumption
I
is.
had to go back with my recall to remember that. So Miz is also the co-acting general manager, which could Stephanie not just overrule Kurt so Miz runs the show? Isn't that the hierarchy?
You're getting into that very kind of clouded WWE corporate ladder.
But Daniel Bryan tells me this every week. That's
What?
a Shane call. He's above me. I mean, this is kind of established.
Hard to say.
Just saying, if Stephanie really wanted something done, she could have it done. Ambrose says he's going to beat down The Miz at Extreme Rules, which, as we learned later in the show, he will not have to wait that long. Offers a handshake to The Miz, but then Braun Strowman's music hits. Strowman is out with his left arm in a sling, and as we learned on Monday, Ryan Satin reported this, he legitimately has a busted up elbow and is going to be out 4 to 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So that would probably mean Extreme Rules is likely off for Braun Strowman. That would be probably a significant turn of events for his recovery to be able to be ready there. I don't see him being part of that.
And thus the angle tonight.
Thus the angle tonight. And Strowman said, first of all, the crowd was chanting, "Thank you, Strowman." And this was another one. Is this just me? Like, it felt, not to say this crowd was the usual boisterous British crowd, but there were times where they felt like they were chanting and they were just turned down.
It felt very apparent to me that the audio was tampered with on this show.
Like, why?
I mean, you know, maybe for fear of...
This was the one where it was most noticeable for Braun, where it felt like they were chanting and people were moving up and down and you heard it, like, manipulated.
Usually it's the opposite, where the crowd doesn't look like they're doing anything and they sweeten the audio to make it sound really loud. This time it felt like it looked like the crowd was having a good time, but everything on the show felt subdued.
Yeah, I was expecting like a super hot crowd that would compensate for what was a very lackluster
I'd love
show.
to hear some live reports of what...
Yeah, and we do have some on the message board, so we got the thread up early, as we will on Tuesday for SmackDown. So he says when his arm heals, he's going to end Roman Reigns, and then when he's finished, he wants Brock Lesnar. This music played. Everyone.
I didn't know. I thought it was a new wrestler.
It's like a mystery man was coming out. It was Roman's new theme. No, it's Kalisto. Remember him?
He's got a new entrance. Yes.
Yes, he's back from the dead. He's not done with Braun and says he beat him in their dumpster match and says that Braun couldn't take it like a man, so he almost ended his career. And much like you have this affinity for TJP and his speaking skills, I don't know what it is, but I look forward now to every time Kalisto has a microphone and said the words, as only Kalisto can say them, "No one treats me like garbage."
It sounds, for whatever reason, kind of funny when he tries to get serious, doesn't it?
I don't know. I get a kick out of it when watching him talk.
I mean, I think anytime the guy picks up a mic now, people are going to think about that Lucha Things promo. And unfortunately, he has a lot. He's going to need a lot of time and some great performances to really shake off that stigma of him being not such a good talker. He wasn't bad. I just...
it's the vocal equivalent of watching Scott Steiner lift up some job guy in the early 90s, and you just knew he was going to throw him, and you didn't know what was going to happen. It's just chaotic. There was no control over what was going to happen.
Wow.
It's the same thing. Kalisto's lips, he just doesn't have full control over what's going to come out of them.
It's tough.
So it could be...
It's not easy. And for Kalisto, you could tell, cutting promos is not maybe something that's as natural to him as it is to Kevin Owens. But he didn't mess up at all here. I thought he was all right.
No, he was fine. Strowman says he crushed him like an empty beer can, which this crowd, I hope, had many beneath them by the end of this show, and can beat him with one arm tied behind his back. And Ambrose makes the match. And Miz then jokes about what other kind of matches Dean is going to make, including a Jack and Coke on a pole match. And then Ambrose made a match between The Miz and Finn Balor. I paused this thinking we were at least 20 minutes into the show, and we were only 13. This was a very long segment. But we set up some matches.
Long, only, I've watched plenty of segments that are longer than 13 minutes and didn't feel like they were necessarily long. If this came across long to you, maybe you just didn't like the segment.
I feel the atmosphere had a lot to do with it.
The
atmosphere was a killer for me on so much of this, on this show, that made a big difference on the show for me.
Me too. I thought it hurt the matches. I thought it just hurt the overall star power of a lot of these guys that were on TV. But, for whatever reason, you have a crowd that doesn't react to anything. I don't, as a viewer, feel like there's much to react to either.
So The Miz and Balor came back after the break. Balor hit him with a running drop kick on the floor, sent Miz into the barricade. Maurice then pulled Miz to the floor as Balor climbed and was setting up for the coup de grace. Miz had the advantage after the break, hit a DDT. Balor then knocked him off the apron to the floor, hit a baseball slide drop kick under the middle rope. And then the referee stops Maurice, and Miz weakly sends Finn into the referee, and the referee is dead. Miz then gets on the microphone and says he cannot allow someone to put hands on an official, wants him disqualified, so the ref calls for the bell. Ambrose comes out saying, "We don't do disqualifications," and wants the match restarted. Remember that. We don't do disqualifications. And Maurice was then banned from ringside. So the match restarted. Balor nailed Miz on the ramp, brought him back into the ring, sling blade, drop kick, coup de grace, and Finn got the win over the man that is getting the title match next week, The Miz.
I didn't really get that either. I mean, yes, I know Balor's in his home continent, but Miz is the guy getting the title shot. And to do... I just thought there was a bit much... overbooking, unfortunately, for a lot of this.
Alexa Bliss was backstage with Nia Jax, and Jax wants to know if what Alexa said about her last week about being great was true. And she wants the next title match, and says after she is done with Bayley, she wants to be the number one contender. Bliss says, "Well, I don't make the matches. I'll have to have a talk with Kurt Angle," and says that until then, Nia is going to be Alexa's best friend. And then we got a Smackdown promo where Tuesday night, Dolph Ziggler will confront Shinsuke Nakamura. Confront. Mm-hmm. Maybe with some damaging information about him. Maybe a passport has been stolen.
I'd like to think they're a bit more careful.
At least if you were going to do a passport angle, it makes more sense to do it when you're overseas.
That is true.
Like burn.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't encourage anyone to burn a passport where the authorities would see that.
Yeah. Well,
But maybe
you can have a fake passport.
The passport could just be torn up backstage and Shinsuke finds it, and Dolph is just, "Hey, well, I don't know who did that.
Yeah.
JVL put me up to it." So Alexa Bliss took on Mickie James, and we had Nia in the corner of Alexa and Bayley in the corner of Mickie James. Cole stated that Bayley is owed a rematch, which I guess is technically true, but why? She lost this match clean, then lost to her again last week in the tag match. But because she did not lose in a singles capacity, she will get this rematch.
That's convenient whenever, there's a need. Like, why didn't Cesaro... I guess Cesaro and Sheamus weren't champions, but...
Poor Bray Wyatt.
Or Kevin
Never
Owens.
got his rematch with Randy Orton, and the rematch that did happen was a non-title match where he beats the champion. He should be outraged.
Or Kevin Owens when he lost the title to Goldberg.
Yeah, you're right. He never got that either. Mickie went for a Thez press, and Bliss kind of hesitated before going down from it, and then there was a running kick to the face of Mickie. The crowds, first they were singing for Bayley, then they started singing for Mickie, or they were wishing that Mickey Gall was going to show up, one or the other.
They're singing, "Hey, Mickie," yes.
They come back from break. Alexa was in control, working on the left arm of Mickie. There was a jumping DDT by Mickie that got blocked, and then Mickie hit a flapjack. Nia then stopped Mickie from climbing, and Bayley leaped off the steps, taking Nia down. And then with Mickie seated on the turnbuckle, Bliss punched her. Mickie fell, and Bliss pinned her via punch. And afterwards, Bayley ran back in, chased Alexa to the back, and then Nia entered, beating down Mickie, hit her with an avalanche, and that seems to be our two programs here. Dare I say, this was maybe the high point of Raw for me.
The match?
I can't even say the match was all that great. I thought more so just... I thought Alexa was good on this show.
I thought she was okay.
Wow.
I thought this was okay.
Don't be so negative.
No,
Come on.
If something stood out about it, I think I would talk about it. But the crowd seemed to really like Bayley, and they were wanting to cheer her and sing for her the entire.
Maybe
match.
that's what I liked about this. There was a pulse for these performers involved.
But beyond that, I thought the match was just kind of there. Nothing
This was
really
way
stood
better
out.
than the singles match they had on SmackDown before WrestleMania, which was dreadfully bad. This was at least average. I'll go so far as to say. But yeah, it looks like Bayley is going to get the next title match, which based on all the programs, probably will happen on Raw. They don't seem to be building a whole lot to Extreme Rules.
Yeah, I think they're delaying the Sasha program, obviously, and Emma's injured currently, correct?
Sasha is the Yoel Romero of the women's division. She's just waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah.
And that's it. Ambrose was backstage. Miz and Maurice entered to complain about the Balor loss. And Miz says that Ambrose hasn't had a shower all week. Ambrose has been busy booking tonight's show, and he tells The Miz to go home. Miz wants to have a Miz TV segment tonight with one of the guys from One Direction, but Ambrose has canceled that segment. He wants more action, less talking, as they continue to talk. And Miz then says that Ambrose has a match against Bray Wyatt for later tonight. He takes the run sheet and leaves. So my question, as we get into the meta portion of this show, did Ambrose script this segment backstage, or was this just a convenient meeting backstage where cameras were present?
GMs don't script the shows. What? There's no script.
Then why were cameras there?
Cameras aren't there. They don't know
Dean
that.
just interviewed Seth a week ago, and he pointed out the cameras here. I mean, we have to know that this is a segment. This is something that's happening.
Sometimes-
So is Dean like writing this, and then poof, the characters appear?
They're only aware of the cameras when they're actually doing interviews. Like if Charlie's there, then
Oh, this
obviously
wasn't an
it's the
interview.
camera.
This was just we were a fly on the wall.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Strowman and Kalisto, we had a tale of the tape where we learned that Strowman's chest size is 62 inches to Kalisto's 43.
Okay, what's yours?
I would need a tape measure. But this should be attached to all MMA tale of the tapes. Chest size. And neck size as well, which we also got here. Braun also has 23-inch pythons. It's not quite 24.
Oh.
Charlie was with Samoa Joe backstage. This was an official interview booked by Dean Ambrose. Okay?
I don't know if he books the show.
How does an interview happen then? Someone's got to plan this. Someone's got to say you're interviewing
there's
him.
still a director.
How did Charlie know to be here? How did Joe know how to be here?
Listen, Dean Ambrose or Kurt Angle, whoever's the acting GM, they're not sitting down creating the rundown for the entire show. I can't imagine.
Then what's supposed to be happening in this moment, if not for this interview that's just fallen out of the sky onto our screen?
I assume that they have other people in storyline working underneath them. Like the guy with the headset and the clipboard, he probably does that.
Joe says that Seth Rollins lives on his terms now, and he's going to wreck his knee. Rollins runs in attacking Joe. They start brawling. Rollins used a ladder. They get separated. And then we have our rematch between Braun Strowman and Kalisto. Booker and Corey Graves, who clearly watched the Canelo Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight over the weekend, were comparing this to that, and that it's going to be as one-sided as that fight was.
Well, I was comparing it to Judgment Day 2004 with the one-arm match between Chavo Guerrero Jr. and Jacqueline.
Yeah, it was.
Sure, maybe Dean listened to our review last week.
He must have.
Yeah.
Do you know, last week, I was, the WWE Network was on, and they had a Raw flashback from 2009. 1 week after the 2009 draft.
Okay.
Find out all the fallout of the draft. The show we spent so much time on.
Oh, I did. I wasn't even sure what you were talking about.
We just reviewed this draft. And of all the Raws in the world, this was the flashback Raw.
Huh. What does that mean?
Nothing.
Doesn't mean.
Dean Ambrose listened, and then he's also programming the network this week, by the way. So Braun and Kalisto. Strowman gets on the mic, and he calls Reigns a coward. Strowman then booted him in the face as the match began, and quickly Roman Reigns came out, his shoulders all taped up. There were lots of boos for Reigns. Kalisto just, disappeared into thin air. He was booked like garbage. There were 3 Superman punches. The final one dropped Braun, and then Reigns gets dropped by a boot, but comes back, sending Strowman's arm across the post repeatedly. There were chants back and forth for Reigns, and then Reigns grabs a chair and attacks the bad arm of Braun, who leaves in agony as the announcers put over the fact that Braun has retreated. Say what you will, Roman Reigns and, by extension, Braun Strowman were the pulse for this crowd.
Certainly.
And when they were gone, flatlining.
Well, I think Roman Reigns was really the person that everybody wanted to either everybody showed up to boo. You know, I would say that was probably the main appeal of the people that were attending Raw tonight, was a chance to boo Roman Reigns, and they got to do that.
His lack of presence hurt this show, in my opinion.
Yeah, so they were certainly hot for that beatdown.
I almost would have saved this for the end of the show, maybe.
Do you want to go off the show with the crowd booing your top babyface?
They'd be doing something instead of sitting on their hands as they were. Like, that was a flat as possible finish tonight.
It was flat, yes. But again, like
this is the big angle on the show. This was the only angle on the show.
Even this to me felt like the audio was a little muted, you know what I mean? So maybe what came across as a flat ending wasn't probably as flat as it actually came across live. There's
also been evidence in the past where putting Braun on last has done some help for that third hour that typically suffers. I don't think it makes a giant deal, but I think building to Reigns and Strowman, especially when they were off last week, people, I guarantee you the tune-out factor after this, when you knew these guys weren't coming back, was probably noticeable. There was nothing to look forward to after this.
Well, it's true, but you also, I think they wanted to end the night with an actual match, you know?
Thank God. It was all the difference in the world for me. So that ended, and then Goldust and R-Truth are in the locker room. Goldust says that tonight is the night. Goldust has enjoyed teaming with R-Truth. He wouldn't change anything with R-Truth. The mountains these two have climbed. He says it hurt him to hear about their win-loss record be so awful.
He had no clue. He thought they were doing so well.
Well, apparently they have been this year.
Have they?
If you look at their house show, right? Like they win on every house show.
Oh, is that right?
Like it's mainly 6-mans they're in, and then the occasional tag, but they win the majority of their matches. Like they don't lose too often.
What's Angle talking
They're
about?
just never booked together. So anyway, he says that the two of them have let all these other teams pass them by, and were treated like roadkill by Braun Strowman, which I'll take his word for it. This was
what they were.
I believe him. I just have no recollection of this. I'm sure it happened.
Yeah.
Goldust cut. I mean, this was his first chance to cut a meaningful promo, probably since he was teamed with Cody.
Yeah.
Goldust is 48. It's amazing.
And he doesn't look like it. I mean, beyond the face paint, I think the guy moves incredibly well for his age, and I think he's still an incredible asset if you give him the chance, like you kind of saw tonight.
The paint makes a big difference, but even without it, he does not look super old at 48. Like, you would probably not guess 48, maybe 40s, but he looks good for his age, and he's a guy that's lived a rough life in spurts. So the tag turmoil match started off with Enzo and Big Cass against Sheamus and Cesaro. And the crowd was singing for Enzo. He had some Notorious B.I.G. socks that he was wearing.
Oh.
And he said that they're going to have winning streaks in their dirty drawers after this match, following a diaper reference.
Yeah. Cool.
Cass says, "We are in the O2 arena, and you'll be strapped with an oxygen mask after this match." Does that mean this is going to be a breath-tasty match? Is this going to just take your breath away?
I think that's what he
That
was
was the goal?
insinuating. Yeah.
What a big...
No, I think he was insinuating that they'll be so tired after their matches that they're going to need oxygen masks.
Oh, well, that's not a real compliment to your cardiovascular system.
He's saying his opponents will be so tired
Oh, okay.
or so worn out.
Well, they set the bar really high for their
There's nothing-
immediate failure.
Listen, there's nothing that these guys can say that won't get them cheered. They still obviously put some effort into it, but tonight was hardly kind of their best effort. It's the O2 arena, so we're going to give them oxygen masks. And the crowd goes nuts, because these guys are over.
I feel Enzo, more so than Cass, has maybe realized that fact that, like, some of his promos, like, it's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the work that goes into his promos.
Yeah.
And he's probably thinking, I should save some of this when I can just do a few little lines and get the exact same reaction. And when I've got to cut a big promo, I'll have this stuff in my back pocket. But why go out there and go through a page and a half of my material?
He's got to do one of these every night, not just on TV, but also at house shows in every single town. He's got to write some.
He is the Young
crazy
Bucks
line.
of promos.
What? Why?
Like, he's over.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to do everything every single night. You've got to prioritize for the right time.
Gotcha. Okay. The Young Bucks of promos.
Yeah.
You could have just said he was over.
Tonight he came out, and this was an Indie Taker promo where it was, looks nice, but it's not insanity.
Okay. Yes.
That's all. So the Bucks against Sheamus and Cesaro. Cass hit an Empire elbow to Sheamus. Cass then spun Enzo and tossed him into Cesaro. Just tossed him. There was a high cross by Enzo to Sheamus for a 2 count, but then ran into an Irish curse, went through a commercial break. Was there a commercial break in maybe every match on this show? Felt like it.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Cass got sent into the post on the floor. Then there was a running uppercut from behind by Cesaro to Enzo, who applied the sharpshooter. And Enzo, sensing a losing streak in his dirty drawers, tapped out at 3:47. Cesaro and Sheamus then took on Heath Slater and Rhino, and they fought on the floor before the match began. Sheamus hit a top rope clothesline. They kept Rhino on the floor this entire time. Slater finally got to the corner. No Rhino. Sheamus hit the brogue kick and pinned Heath in 2:19.
There's a fun moment where the crowd starts chanting, "He's got kids," and then
He kicked them low?
Yeah, Cesaro either delivers an elbow or something to Heath's crotch, and the crowd starts chanting, "No more kids."
Yeah, that was
Very
funny. Then they took on Anderson and Gallows. Cesaro blocked and hit a vertical suplex to Gallows. Sheamus then caught him with a super kick off the turnbuckle to Gallows. They took a break, came back, and then Gallows and Anderson were double teaming Sheamus. The Magic Killer got stopped. Anderson was taken to the floor by Cesaro, with Sheamus winning with another brogue kick, pinning Gallows, and then it came down to Sheamus and Cesaro against Golden Truth. Goldust and R-Truth ran down, and the story here was that they are fresh. Cesaro and Sheamus are on their 4th match. So I thought this was structured the right way.
Yes.
Built around Goldust and R-Truth. Maybe they can pull this off, which, given what they've done on SmackDown, I think there was more believability in maybe Goldust and R-Truth winning than maybe 2 months ago. Because you've done a lot of unsuspecting teams, like Fandango and Tyler Breeze are your number 1 contenders.
Right.
Jinder is the number 1 contender. That I think that maybe they felt there was a chance that you do go with Goldust R-Truth here. Anyway, they got the advantage on Goldust, kept him away from R-Truth while attacking the leg. Cesaro applied the sharpshooter. Truth broke it up. Truth came in, hit a scissors kick to Cesaro for a 2 count, which was pretty telling because even on the near fall spot, the crowd was just not buying this. Truth then missed a splash and got rolled up by Cesaro for the win. And then to add insult to injury, Cesaro and Sheamus beat down Goldust and Truth to keep the crowd against them. They posed in the ring, and then the Hardys came out with Cesaro and Sheamus taking their exit. But pretty strong presentation for Sheamus and Cesaro running through all 4 teams.
Yes, it was interesting to see them wrestling as heels, pretty much for almost the entire match. Cesaro no longer does a big swing. But when they were wrestling Gallows and Anderson, they were portrayed as the baby faces, with Gallows and Anderson playing the heels. So it's kind of interesting to see them kind of flip back and forth to an extent in the body of the same match. But, the outcome that I think you would expect, Cesaro and Sheamus were working an angle with the Hardys prior at the end of Payback anyway, so this is a fine way to build them back up. And you can expect some type of breakup with Truth and Goldust coming out of this. And, I don't know, a feud between the two? Do you think they'd put the TV time to devote to an R-Truth versus Goldust feud at this point?
Sure. On a show that was lacking a lot, I was surprised the Hardys had such a small role on this show. This was it. Just this one run-in.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, arguably, your most over baby faces on this roster at the moment that were available for this show. Mm-hmm. Seth Rollins took on Samoa Joe. They fought to the floor right away as the match began. Rollins sent him into the barricade, sling blade, and then hit a blockbuster. But then Joe drop kicks the legs out from underneath Rollins, crashes on the floor, come back from a commercial break. Crowd was chanting back and forth for both. Rollins repeatedly avoided the coquina clutch, and then Rollins blocked a powerbomb, hitting a Falcon Arrow for a 2 count, blocked another coquina clutch, and then Joe has Rollins on his shoulders, and Rollins is trying to grab the top rope and yanks off the turnbuckle pad. Joe then runs Rollins into the exposed buckle. The referee goes to fix the buckle, and then Joe throws the padding away, runs Rollins into it again, and the disqualification is called. And I guess Dean Ambrose was sleeping backstage.
He was busy getting ready for his match.
Allowed a disqualification to slip through the cracks. Yeah. And then he applied the coquina clutch once again onto Rollins after the match. I mean, these two have fine matches, but this to me was, we didn't have a finish. We didn't want to beat either guy, and we had a lengthy match, and it was just, I didn't get into this.
No, I didn't either. And again, I think something has to be said about the way the crowd sounded, and I hate to restate, something that...
No, this one was really noticeable.
But, yeah, I really enjoyed their match at Payback. I thought they had a good match here, but it wasn't near the quality of it, nor as hard-hitting, and the lack of a finish certainly hurt it too.
Neville and TJP were on Facebook, and man, they hit you over the head of the new branding of Mr. Perkins. He is no longer TJ Perkins. He is only TJP.
Okay. Is that official? Was he keyed as TJP?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they referred to him the entire match.
He sounds more heelish that way.
I guess.
Perkins, come on. It makes you think of a family restaurant.
Yeah, there's nothing... You wouldn't want to sit with this guy for
but
dinner.
A TJP... Come on.
Maybe he'll speak French permanently. Could do that too.
Oh.
Neville told TJP he has to prove why he should be the next challenger and get a marquee victory, and tells him to go out and beat Jack Gallagher tonight. So Neville was on commentary and had to awkwardly refer to him as TJP, which was awesome. That was a better match than the actual one. Jack Gallagher against TJP. It just sounds goofy when you've got to actually say it because that's the official name. It's just, they've made it awkward because they are the WWE.
Listen, there are plenty of people, like GSP, we call him GSP, but that's by choice.
Yeah, it's not as though Dana will only have him referred to as GSP on the broadcast.
His birth certificate does not say TJP. I hope. Maybe he went and changed it. Maybe his first name T, last name is P?
TJ. Yeah.
Okay.
Space P. The crowd, of course, was into Gallagher, so you knew where this was going. Gallagher hit him with a headbutt, sending him to the floor. Gallagher was on offense, avoided a detonation kick, and then an O'Connor rollout out of the corner was reversed by TJP, who grabbed the trunks and won the match in 3 minutes. After the win, Neville said to the announcers, "Well, I didn't promise TJP anything." And then TJP attacked Gallagher, applied the knee bar until Austin Aries ran down for the save wearing a knee brace. courtesy of TJP.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Anyway, this was the only cruiserweight match of the night.
Yep. It was 3 minutes, and they beat Gallagher in England.
So, I mean,
welcome home.
A little surprising because I figured they would at least have Neville do a match, but, I don't know. Do they want a babyface reaction for Neville? Or maybe not.
Do they want a babyface reaction for Jack Gallagher?
He got one when he came out. Gallagher was really over here. But it was, again, kind of hard to tell.
This could have been anybody, but they chose Jack Gallagher to be the guy to lose in 3 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't really like this one too much.
You have a drop-down menu of cruiserweights that could be thrown in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they want the program. The person they're trying to push is TJP, and having TJP beat Rich Swann probably wouldn't mean as much.
I was listening to our pal Ariel today on the MMA Hour, and he was talking about the UFC Countdown show for this Saturday in Dallas, and it's got Stipe Miocic defending the title against Junior Dos Santos. And he was noting, watching the Countdown show of Stipe's last fight, which we were at in Cleveland, and the reaction to Stipe's win in the main event over Alistair Overeem, and comparing it to when Conor McGregor beat Diego Brandao in Dublin, Ireland, and how Stipe should fight in Cleveland. Just filled an arena, gigantic reaction. It's like all the pieces came into place for both of those guys. Like, imagine you could take either of those guys to Dublin or Cleveland, and you had the power to say they win or they lose.
Yeah.
It's like,
I agree.
What a backwards industry in comparison.
It's not really the industry. I think it's just Vince McMahon's.
Company.
Vince McMahon's philosophy, where I think he maybe has the opinion that no matter what, hometown guy is going to get cheered. So why waste it?
Why does he get cheered, though? You believe in that person.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's not even true though. Like, Zack Ryder will get cheered no matter what, and the guy loses every time he goes to New York. But that said, Jack Gallagher really had an opportunity to become an even bigger star with a different match and a different win tonight. I have no doubt. So. But that's not how he makes TV. Vince makes TV depending on who he's focusing on at the time, and if he sees an opportunity, much like with Alexa beating Bayley in San Jose, to get more heat for the heel, what he'll do.
I don't know if that got any more heat for Alexa. I don't know if she was one bit more hated because of that win in San Jose.
That was, I think, more of a circumstance of like, hey, where do we go from here? If Alexa loses, what's more left to do with the feud when I feel like now you've got another match coming, Well, we went to Sasha against Alicia Fox after the cruiserweight match, and we had the Johnsonville seat upgrade with a family moved to the front row with a half hour to go in the show. They were probably moved up before, I would hope.
Fox applied a rear chin lock, and something clearly more exciting was going on in the audience, this was the biggest reaction of the night.
I know that their style dictates that they need to do these rest spots from time to time to set up the crowd, to let the crowd breathe. But this is a 3-minute match. Why the need for this long chin lock after a minute of action?
Maybe they were hoping the crowd would focus back on them because they were clearly distracted here. And then there were these giant boos. And it's so painfully obvious that the crowd is not paying attention. All the heads are turned away. Yeah. And you've got one of the announcers, they're rabid in London tonight. Oh, this was just a cluster. Sasha leapt off the turnbuckle with the double knees, won in 2:47. And then Corey pointed out that Alicia's right shoulder was up. And it wasn't even as though Alicia was consciously putting her shoulder up. It was more like she was just flailing underneath. And it felt like it was a legitimate just mistake that they decided to focus upon because, God forbid, this was an actual storyline that they were going to move forward. Alicia was wronged here.
No, it was 100% an accident. And, I mean, it was probably just a case of Corey and probably...
Because Booker tried to downplay it.
Yeah. And it was probably a case of them saying, what?
Who made you the ref?
This looks so dumb. If we didn't mention it, then we'd get called out. So it was really ugly. Give us what's the update on Emma?
Emma hurt her shoulder on Sunday, and I think she's just awaiting the results. Like she was getting
In a match against Sasha.
It was a 6-woman tag.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was like the double knee spot out of the corner, and it just then had a awkward finish to it. But Emma's had shoulder surgery in the past. She had surgery something like 6 years ago. So I don't know if it was the same shoulder. I think this was the right one that she hurt. So I'm sure there'll be an update in the next day or so.
But Sasha's next program maybe looks to be Alicia Fox. Who else is there right now?
Great. Yeah. She's in no woman's land at the moment. Dean and Miz was announced for Raw next week. And then Miz and Maurice were on commentary for our main event of Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt, who brought us memories of their feud of 2014. In record fashion, it was brought back. All these images to me. Bray suplexed him to the floor. They went through a commercial break. Miz got up at one point to go to the ringside area. Dean blocked the Sister Abigail. Then Bray hit a Uranagi, got a 2 count. Crowd was chanting for Randy Savage. Cole says, "This has been an incredible night," which was 10 times worse than any time Tony Schiavone called this the greatest night in the history of our sport. Lunatic lariat. Bray blocked a Dirty Deeds. Dean hit a suicide dive.
I'd love to know how you would call WWE Raw. You know, if you were the lead play-by-play guy, what would you have said instead of "this was an incredible night"?
Kill me. Miz then was on the floor and hit Dean from behind with a belt shot, threw him back into the ring. He kicked out at 2. Sister Abigail. Bray won. I fell on the floor asleep. Miz did a promo. He announced Bray as the winner. Attacked Dean. Says he'll be wearing the title after next week.
The whole show was a tough one. And I do, again, kind of feel like the lack of a real reaction from this audience seemed to hurt it overall. But even without that, it was just a real by-the-numbers episode of Raw, a very generic episode of Raw. With a
Numbers
lot of
progress. Numbers go up. Numbers have an order to them that you're advancing. Like 7, 8, 9 takes you to 10. I can't tell you one thing you missed on this show. What is a question that is coming out of this show that you just can't wait to hear the answer to next week? What is the episodic?
Goldust and R-Truth, there's progression there. But that was it, you know, which tells you a lot.
You have sold me, Wade.
If you missed this episode of Raw, you missed the startling development of the next saga, part of the Goldust R-Truth saga. But as far as the whole show itself, I mean, let's just ignore the crowd. Let's just ignore even the lack of storyline progression. In terms of the matches, I felt like none of them were really all that stand out. A lot of screwy finishes, a lot of overbooking, in my opinion. And just, overall, not that great an episode of Raw.
And you look at the coming weeks where Braun's on the sidelines. I mean, Roman is kind of doing a storyline injury, but he's at least present. Jericho's gone. Owens is gone. That's a lot of departures. That's taken a significant portion out of this show. Like, Raw as a 3-hour vehicle, losing names like that at the moment, that's problematic.
Yeah. But I'll say on this episode, I feel like Finn Balor could have had a bigger presence, you know, especially being in the UK. I think they should have had him doing something bigger in the main event. What is his program at Extreme Rules?
Well, we figure Bray Wyatt.
It's supposed to be Bray Wyatt, but
there's nothing on this show.
No hint of that at all on this episode. I felt like they really should have done something with him to close the show for a bigger reaction.
They didn't even mention his 24 special tonight coming up.
Is it Seth's or his? That's
coming up tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
They're wearing a Bring It to the Table and then the 24. They plugged Bring It to the Table a few times. For me, like, I know that Finn Balor thing is going to be great. I'm sure it's going to be great. And I would have aired a number of those just coming in and out of break throughout the night.
Yeah.
It's a Finn Balor presence, and it's probably way better than anything you've seen of him on the show since his return. So I would have had a lot of that on tonight's show. But I thought an extremely, extremely dull show. And that was Raw. Next week, we go to New Jersey, the home of Ahmad.
Is that officially what it's known as now?
Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of New Jersey.
Okay.
I think of Ahmad.
Well, hopefully he gets a better show than tonight.
Yes. All right. Well, if you missed Raw, congratulations, you win. We'll be back on Wednesday with review of SmackDown, reviewing SmackDown, and Dolph confronting Shinsuke Nakamura, as well as 205 Live, talking smack. Maybe Wai's going to check out Bring It to the Table.
I think I will. Yeah, we'll check the Finn Balor documentary.
The Finn Balor one I will watch.
Yes.
We'll see about Bring It to the Table. So that's coming up Wednesday. All of our usual shows are coming out this week. We're going to have a new Keep It 2000 on Friday, where Brian and Nate are going to be reviewing the March 13th, 2000 episode of Nitro. A rare week where the classic 2000 Nitro might be better than this week's offering of Raw. So there you have it. Check that out on Friday. And then, of course, the Law is up. And Tuesday, we'll have our entire interview with Adam Cole posted up on the site. Really great chat with newly minted free agent Adam Cole, who will be part of the ROH pay-per-view Friday against Hiroshi Tanahashi. For Wai Ting, I am John Pollock. Good night.
Each week, you have a chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees during Review of Raw. All you have to do is pay attention for the secret question and then submit your answer at Law Radio on Twitter, and you'll be entered into a draw to win your t-shirt, including our own brand of shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/law.